George Medicki starts on pole alongside Chris Pither. Now, George was in the series just the last couple of years. He's off in the United States racing. How did he get to be a legend?
Well, he left his mark here before he left to go overseas. But look, great legends through there. The name Brock, Tony Longhurst on grid 16, all the way through. A young Kovacs. 10 years ago, I raced hard against his father. Now the son's on board.
Robbie Madison starting 22nd. He'll share with Brad Patton. Great to have Rod Wilson here, the inaugural champion back in 2001. Rod Barrett, the FPV GM, is driving with David Cedars this weekend. And Stephen Bradbury, can he skate his way through from 31st on the grid? Race 1 on the streets of Adelaide. George Medicki to the left. Chris Pither, the Kiwi kid, back in the series on the right. It's a full field. The grandstands are packed. And 2010 is underway. Luke Yulden is in the blue Commodore on the second row of the grid. And Steve Owen is driving Kim Jane's Commodore.
And when you look at those names, Medicki and Pither, great history in V8 Youth. But then Yulden, Owen, Zakanovic and McConville. This will be a cracker.
And what about Paul Morris, the Samboy Commodore, sharing with Scott Jennings. Medicki leads down at turn 4. Got to say, everyone's well behaved. What's going on? Are they still in off-season slumber?
Well, these aren't the regular Ute guys. These are the legends. So they may take a few corners to get into it.
And the fact is, none of these drivers own these cars. They're treating them with great respect.
Insert evil laughter here.
There are 7 laps to go at the end of this one, though. Everyone well behaved on this first run to the turn 8 sweep. But this is one of the best corners in Aussie motor racing. Check this out. And then the run. Look at this, a lock-up already at turn 9. This is probably the best passing move on the track.
And you see there in the Samboy Commodore, Paul Morris. He at the start was the first car to move to the right. No surprises there that Paul Morris looks keen to play.
George Medicki, the leader, sharing with Jeremy Gray this weekend. George has moved to the US where he's become a development driver for the JTG Doherty team. Now that's Marcus Ambrose's NASCAR team, and George is looking to do some late model racing this year, but couldn't help but come back home for this one. It's Mick Medicki's. His dad Andrew has got a ringside seat here in the championship winning car, sharing with Jack Elsgood, and he's just copped a ding. What's going on here? Melrose and Andrew Medicki getting stuck into it.
I think Melrose is a bit filthy that Marcus Zakanovic, who bombed it in there nice and late, made contact. Mel then's copped it from Medicki. Melrose, welcome to V8 Ute racing.
Great to have Andrew back behind the wheel. Has stepped away in the last couple of years while young George has been developing his career. That's Rick Bates in the Jesus Racing Falcon of Andrew Fisher.
Woo-hoo! Sideways on the exit. Lock up all the way in. That's an unusual place to try to pass. Very lucky that Melrose showed great car control. Feeling the pressure. Man, it's happening.
Rick Bates. Straight through. Oh, Tim Shaw.
And facing the wrong way. In a guard. Smoke him up, brother. The fans love it. Listen to them cheer.
That's Reece McNally's car, the younger brother of former Rookie of the Year Glenn McNally's taking over the car for the year. Bit of smoke there in the background. That's Cam McConville in Gary Baxter's Commodore. We'll keep an eye on what's going on there. Steve Owen hung out to dry here.
I don't think he's going to give it up. He'll have the inside hit. Oh, that reminded me years ago of the pressure of V8 Ute racing. You have to love it. That move reminded me of Courtney and Lowndes years ago in the supercars. We've seen how that can end in tears.
And they both ended up in the fence. Today, everyone ended up staying on the racetrack.
There again, a big break-up lap by Paul Morris. The inside front tyre has absolutely been hammered, understeered off the track. Zakanovic and Morris now side by side.
Plenty of action in this first race. Still that smoke continues. Oh, more than smoke, we've got a barbecue under the engine bay of Cam McConville's Sage Automotion Commodore, and that's terminal. He needs to get out of it right now.
The team no doubt will be on the radio. It's quite ironic that Cameron McConville was talking about barbecuing the front tyres pre-race. Well, that's more than barbecuing the tyres, isn't it, Aaron?
I think he's got a bit more of a drama. He pulls out on the exit of turn 3. Here's the Yokohama replay. And, yeah.
Spectacular. Unfortunate, but very spectacular.
One way to guarantee getting a run. But unfortunately, they've got some work to do. Back up front, here's Steve Owen, who's trucking along pretty nicely in Kim Jane's Commodore.
and trucking along nicely in the Fujitsu Series in the Greg Murphy Racing Commodore. So plenty of laps this weekend for Steve Owen.
And he's up to second. Here's a move. Actually, when's there not a move going on at turn 9? Everyone is in on the action. Back with Rick Bates on the pacemaker in-car in the Jesus Falcon. Right in behind Melrose. And, of course, Leighton Cranbrook. This car's a Commodore. He's been in a Ford for the last couple of years. So a bit of a switch in the off-season for the former champion. But Melrose, who has done a great job in so many different cars over the years. Oh, that's not a good job. Tony Cavich, the workhorse Falcon, sharing with his son Ben. And it's been hit from everywhere.
It has got damage to the right rear, and here we're going to see why. A big brake lock-up.
None other than Robbie Madison.
He said he was going to send a few into the wall. Is this the start of it? Yep. Yep, you got... Oh!
So that was 15 all, and Chris Burton was the man in the wrong place.
Wrong place indeed. That is a huge impact right there.
Back in Adelaide with the Yokohama V8 Utes, and George Medicki has wandered away. He leads from Steve Owen and Luke Yulden. But Damien White, check this out for a move. Melrose down the inside and swerving at Paul Morris.
Who in their right mind would swerve at Paul Morris? Look at him, he's pushed him right on the curb on exit. On board now with Andrew Medecki in Jack Ellsworth's car. You can hear the balance on the throttle, the up and down. They try to balance the car on exit. Look at the mirrors. Both cars dangling. Paul Morris there looking a little bit uncompetitive.
And heading to pit lane as well. Now we're hearing from pit lane that this is a penalty because he retook his grid position after not leaving the grid with the rest of the field in order.
In which case, when that happens, when they come around for the start, you either start from the rear of the grid. Paul has passed the cars to reclaim his position, hence the black flag.
How wide was James Brock there? He's back behind the wheel this weekend, a former Ute regular. These days prepares the car driven by Paul Williams. But the boys are really frying the Yokohamas already.
And again, you hear another small lockup.
Pacemaker in car with Rick Bates. He's putting Melrose under heaps of pressure now. Andrew Fisher said before the start of this weekend that Rick's been spending some time in the confessional box. And
look at that sideways up over the curb.
I didn't know a Disciple could put so much pressure on someone.
The Disciple, the Ford versus Holden power. The power battle down the straight as they head to turn 8. But Melrose, for me, has done a fantastic job. He's bolted from nowhere. We used to see him all the time on Australian circuits, more recently focused on doing the Nürburgring 24-hour, but to come here, launch himself into 5th place in this level of racing is pretty damn cool.
Have a look at the lunges here at turn 9. That's Charlie O'Brien putting a move on James Brock, and Charlie's driving with Steve McFadden this weekend. And this is a Yokohama replay at turn 8. Robbie Madison, that's standard.
That is scary to watch. Did it in practice? Hey, why not, Robbie? Do it in the race as well, brother.
Chris Mither here trying to fight back through the field. He's been into the pits for a drive-through penalty because of a jump start, and he's just trying to get back in the top 10.
He'll be filthy too. Showed good speed, qualified in the front row. Another engine failure and another Holden.
Another barbecue as well. Matt Lockwood, the Kiwi, teaming up with Steve Hodges. Yokohama replay down at turn 9.
And geez, I hope that hasn't left oil on turn 8. The exit of turn 8 with oil. Can you imagine?
Oh, I'd rather not. Here's Melrose, still hanging on from Rick Bates. White flag to warn the drivers that there's a slow-moving vehicle somewhere down here. There it is.
Thankfully, he's moved offline. Again, turn 8. Seems to be the place that attracts all the action. The DBA on board now with Andrew Medecki. Come on, Andrew, you need to do a quicker gear change. And that car that's sitting there, been there for a few laps, yellow flag is out. You can see the back of that car in front sideways as the tyres now start to go off.
This is the fight for 5th, 6th and 7th. Melrose, Rick Bates and Andrew Medecki.
Oh, it's Rick Bates. No wonder he is sideways.
Oh, he's a rally driver. Hey! That's not a curb that you want to be getting up and off on the exit of 14 there. Slows you down all the way to the chicane.
It does, but Andrew Medecki would be loving it. Boom! Hits a tyre bundle. Doesn't mind hitting an apex. I think he's broken the steering.
He hit that curb so hard.
He's having a think about it here. He's having a good feel of the car. That was a big impact.
And it's a worry if Tim Lay's passing you around the outside, there's clearly a problem. Meanwhile, his young fellow is off and running. George Mediki really has got no one in the rearview mirror. He's dominated from the front row.
He has. If ever there was any father-son debate at home over the dinner table, I think George has laid claim now and stated that I'm better than you.
He's on his way home at the end of race 1 of the weekend. Of course, in race 2, the regular drivers get back into their cars, and it's an all-in brawl for race 3. But George Mediki started it off perfectly, 6 seconds in front of Steve Owen. That's a gap pretty much unheard of in ute racing.
It is, but to be fair, George is fresh out of V8 ute, so he's very familiar with the characteristics. That's not to say it's not a great performance. As you said, that is a big margin over a short distance.
And he's going to cruise to the line. George Mediki puts one on the board for Ford in 2010 in the Yokohama V8 Ute Series. Steve Owen second, Luke Youlden home in third. There's Leanne Tander, the Thirsty Camel Commodore. He's had a few dramas over the course of the weekend so far, but Mel Rose hangs on and takes a well-earned 5th.
And the battles continue right throughout the field. Go, Charlie O'Brien! No!
Steve Robinson just managed to grab 9th place on the line.
But Charlie O'Brien to finish in 10th. I used to live with Uncle Charlie. Good friend of mine and a great result.
Former Ute champ Marcus Sukanovic in 4th. Tim Lay finished up in 7th. And Robbie Madison was in pretty much everything. He finished 20th, and he's with Bryony Ingerson.
Robbie, what an initiation to V8 Ute racing. How tough was it out there?
Yeah, they say rubbin's racing, but I don't know about the panel damage I've got. It's a bit more than rubbin.
Tell us what happened.
I put a legitimate move on a guy who jumped the curb and just slammed me, spun me out. I kept the boot into it and spun him back, and then he got cleaned up pretty good behind me, so it was good to see him on the next lap stop.
Did you expect the racing to be that aggressive?
No, I thought, obviously I knew that it was going to be pretty intense, but I didn't think blatant takeout moves. But, it is what it is. Once I realised how we're playing, I quickly learned the rules and gave it back, so it was all good.